And the title of this sermon is called Setbacks Are Your Setups for an Upgrade. In today's Sunday school lesson, we learned that situation happened where God wanted the people to go into the type of folks that were actually going against God. And he used those people to bring them into prominence, but he also reunited them with the ones that he was getting rid of. That's one of the things that we have to look at and think about personally. I don't want you to become victims let me say it this way. I don't want you to become victims to some of the setbacks that we go through. I want you to be able to turn them into a positive. If you can't physically turn it into a positive, you can mentally turn it into a positive. Remember what I said a couple weeks ago. You can only have one thought in your mind at the same time. If you have an evil thought in your mind, all you got to do is think of something positive. That evil thought is gone. All you got to do is remember to act on that good thought that you have to perpetuate good thinking. Okay, here we go. God uses failure to educate us. Mistakes are simply learning experiences. And there are some things that we learn only through failure. So some of us, even though we didn't go to college, are highly educated. Think about it. Think about the things that you go through that you fail at. I'll give you one. In the book, it was talking about the guy who made the light bulb. Said he failed 1,000 times before the actual light bulb really worked. You know how he looked at it? He just said, I had 1,000 steps before I got the light to work. See, he just flipped it around. They weren't failures. They were tries. He was trying to get it to work. It didn't. If he had stopped, he'd have been a failure because he never would have completed what it was that he was trying to do. This is where I want you to remember and put into your mindset when it comes to dealing with what you go through in your life and what God has for you in your life. Your setbacks can reaffirm your faith. It may surprise you to know that admitting to your hopelessness to God can be a statement of faith. How can he fix something that's wrong if you won't admit to it that it's a problem? I can't fix it if you don't tell me it's broke. So if I'm God and I know you got a problem and you don't want to tell me about it, you just expect me to just come and fix it for you? Well, see, God's not like that. God's an action God. You got to do something yourself. So if you want God to fix the problem that you have, for instance, I had a problem with credit. I didn't want to deal with the situation, straightening it out and everything. But God told me, he says, how can you get good credit if you don't try to fix the bad credit? That's the same thing in your life. Another thing, failure can also be motivational. It'll make you want to do something if you know that there's something that you're trying to accomplish and you can't do it. Just like when you first started learning how to play the piano. You started learning how to play the piano. A lot of us, I learned on the organ. So I got tired of the lessons. I got tired of doing the repetitive stuff over and over and over again. But I had to get through that bad stuff in order to be able to get to the point where I could play chords and melodies and I could play full songs. We have to look at those individual failures or setbacks are just setups in order for you to get an upgrade. How can you become better if you don't try to be better first? We always say this, in order for you to be better, you got to do better. So you get away from that old stuff. Be motivated by the things that were wrong in your life so that you can try your best to do them so that they will be right. Let's go back to Psalms 116. I'm going to read it out of the Living Bible. I love this psalm. I'm going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to read it to you. It says, I love the Lord because he hears my prayers and answers them. Because he bends down and listens. I will pray as long as I breathe. Death stare me in the face. I was frightened and sad. Then I cried, Lord, save me. How kind he is. How good he is. So merciful. This God of ours. The Lord protects the simple and the childlike. I was facing death. And then he saved me. Now I can relax, for the Lord has done this wonderful miracle for me. He has saved me from death, my eyes from tears, my feet from stumbling. I shall live, yes, in his presence here on earth. In my discouragement, I thought they are lying when they say I will recover. But now what can I offer Jehovah for all he has done for me? I will bring him an offering of wine and praise his name for saving me. I will publicly bring him the sacrifice I vowed I would. His loved ones are very precious to him, and he does not lightly let them die. Now, let's go back. God won't let his people die, but he will let you go through some serious situations in order for him to get your attention so that you can wake up and come to him and be right. Think about it. Those problems that you had when, okay, for instance, say that you were trying to buy your house. You're going to buy the house, you get to the people, you sit down, you make your deal, you get to the mortgage company, you come to find out that there's a problem with the deed. You can't get the deed straight, so that means you can't sign the papers, you can't move into the house. But your money and everything is already there. Everything is set, the mortgage is set, everything is ready, but you just can't move in because the deed is not clear. You can't do it. It's a setback. But think about it. It's going to make you do some work. It's going to make you go back and check the things that you didn't check to see if it was something that you made a mistake on. That's your part to do. But see, here's the key. Maybe you didn't do anything wrong. God set you back because he's waiting for you to get set up to get this upgrade. You're going to get this house, but you got to go through the process. And going through the process means you got to do what you got to do, and then you got to step back and let God do what he has to do when it comes to turning it around for you. Because you cannot do all of this by yourself. None of us can do anything in our lives alone. Your life is not just for you. Your life is for everybody. So if he wants you to do something different, that means you're going to have to take heed. You're going to have to learn. You're going to have to put it in your mind to remember, when I messed up that time, I won't mess up this next time. Because I didn't go to church last Sunday, I'm going to make sure I go to church this Sunday. I didn't pray last, I'm going to pray this time. Always go from the negative to the positive, because in order for God to be able to bless you, you got to show him you want it. He's not going to bless you just because of the fact that you want a blessing. You got to go to work. You got to show him something. You got to do something. Let's go into the Bible. Let's talk about some of the people that had to go through their setbacks. Joseph, he was sold into slavery. What happened to him? No. He became the second strongest important man in the country, right up under the Pharaoh. He had to get set back in that hole and sold into slavery in order for God to upgrade him. Because not only did he upgrade him, he allowed Joseph to use that blessing to upgrade his family. Even though they dogged him out. That's a great God. Job, look what he went through. He was stripped of everything. His family, his flocks, his land, everything. But what did God do to him after he went through all of that mess that he had to go through? He gave him tenfold on some of the stuff that he took from him. That's a blessing. But that was the setback that set him up to get his upgrade. Look at David. After David killed the Philistine, everybody was talking big stuff about him. He was a 17-year-old boy. But as he started to grow, he started to get popularity. What happened? Saul chased him out of town. He had to run for his life because he was going to be killed. So God had to set him back. Although he was getting all this popularity and notoriety, he had to set him back, get him out of the picture in order to set him up so he could give him the upgrade when he made him king. Look what Jesus went through. If we want to talk about anybody that gave it up and changed totally for us, although it's totally different in the perspective when you look at it from Jesus' point of view, because he had it to start with, and then he gave it up and God gave it back to him. But that process that he sent Jesus through is what we're supposed to be looking at, what we're supposed to be believing in. Think about this. God is a great God. But first of all, you got to believe that God is going to be there for you. You got to have that faith. Not only that, you got to believe that God will listen to you. He tells you that he wants to hear your prayers. He wants to do everything for you. He wants to keep you at all times. Then the third thing is you got to believe that he will let you talk to him from where you are. Now, a lot of us think that we ain't ready to talk to God or ready to come to God because we don't have our lives in the right perspective and we come. No, God can't use you when you're trying to come to him like that. He takes you where you are. So if you're in the middle of a mess and you got something going on that you need to deal with, talk to God right there in the middle of that mess. Let him know that that is what you need him to take away from you so that you can go further in whatever it is that he has set for you. Our biggest problem is that we become victims to our setbacks. We got to get away from being victimized from our own setbacks. If you create a problem for yourself, the only way that you're going to straighten it out is with God's help.
Amen.
Because if you mess it up the first time, how can you correct it without some help? So let that setback be something that gives you some motivation to move forward. Let that setback be something to show that you have something that you've learned. Let me show you, just like I said, I always love using myself as an example. In order for me, I had to get out of the street life in order to get into God's life. I had to get out of dealing with them drugs and not having my mind to going to God where he could reaffirm me and he could restore me and give me my mind back. I had to get away from them loose women so I could end up with a wife that was a blessing to me. I had to get all of that stuff that set me back. I had to use that, or I should say God had to use that to show me there was a better way for me. My biggest thing that I can say right now to God, when he set me back, he showed me that you are not going to do what you want to do. He showed me in so many ways, but I was hard-headed and did not want to pay attention. I was 20 years old and a man told me, if you sing for God, you'll have everything that you ever need in your life. I'm going on 60 years old, and trust me, I'm just not getting there. But I can say this, I'm getting here.
Thank you, Lord.
I didn't quit. I love the fact that God did not quit on me. He held me up. He let me go through what I went through, but he held me up until I got to the point where I had to say, Lord, help me. Change my life. My setbacks that I have been through are probably the best things that have gotten me to be where I am today. If it wasn't for all them mistakes I made, I would not know how to talk to the youngsters today to tell them the things that they need to do, to change from the things that they're going through so that they don't have to. My pastor told me this one time, don't let God do to you what he did to me. I looked at him and I said, how am I going to stop God from doing anything to me? He just laughed. And I said, well, tell me what you're talking about, Uncle G. And this is the first minister in my family that I was close to. He told me just like this. He said, God wanted me to preach. He knew I was struggling with this. He said, God wanted me to preach. He said, I was a gambler, and that was his thing. He loved gambling, shooting dice. It was on the street. That was his thing. So he said one morning he was in his bed, and God told him, I want you to preach. And he said, God, if you want me to preach, he said, light my room up. Light it up like the sun. Now, he explained to me the house that he was in. He had a window up here. He had floodlights down on the ground. He said there was no way in the world that room could have lit up from them bulbs outside. His whole bedroom blazed. He said from that point he dropped on his knees, and he's been a preacher ever since until the day he died. And he told me, I'm not going to hinder you. If you think God has called you to preach, he says, I'm not going to put you down. I'm going to give you the opportunity to do that so we can see if that's what's meant for you to do. And let me tell you, the first day I preached at his church, which was our family's church, I was shocked because I didn't think people would take me seriously. Because you know what they said about Jesus? The only way that you're going to get any notoriety is you got to leave your hometown. You know, don't nobody want to believe nothing about you where you come from. You got to leave and go somewhere and do something and go back. But let me tell you this. God showed me right then that my life was going to change. My setback was I ran. But what I was running from, today I run to. I'm not afraid of a failure coming in front of me. If I slip, stumble, or fall, as long as I know my God is going to take care of me, I'm getting up.
Amen.
I'm going to be ready to move. I'm going to do what's necessary in order for me to do. And like I said before, in order for us to grow in anything in our lives, we got to get past us. Our setback for our upgrade is us. The enemy is in us. What we have to do is make sure that we have God in us to replace that enemy. Do you want to get rid of your setbacks? Or do you want those setbacks to show you the way that you really need to go? My answer to you this morning, you need those setbacks in order for you to know the next time what not to do. That's how we are taught. Think about how we learn. You learn when they taught you what is 2 plus 2 and you said 5, what did they do? They said, no, go back and start over. Count it again. You went back until you got it. God tests us like that each and every day. So if you're in the middle of a test and you feel that you done failed, all you got to do is just ask God to show you what it is that you need to change. Because that setback is putting you in a perspective, so when you move the next time, you are not traveling that same road. You're traveling a different road with a different mindset. Because my thing is this: we all read the Bible. We all get our own interpretation out of it. But as long as we get the interpretation that He loves us, based on His word, we all got it together. You can't fail from that setback. Because when you don't know that the Bible is for you, and then you learn that the Bible is for you, that's when everything starts to change. Your attitude, and that's why I'm ending on this today. Our attitude is the most important thing when it comes to us being healthy in our bodies, in our mind, and spiritually. We always have to remember God first, us second. Because if we put God first, we don't have to worry about making all those mistakes. Because see, sometimes God will give you the revelation so that you don't have to go through all those mistakes. And if you're faithful and you believe, and this is it right here, reaffirm your faith, be motivated, build your character by believing in God, trusting that He will listen to you, and also believing that He will let you talk to Him and still love you for who you are. Now, you want to get rid of your setbacks, or do you want them to be a blessing of a learning experience?